All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We are back for episode 13, I
I
think.
think it's
15,
14
14.
or 15.
I
Let me
really should
check.
start keeping track here, or at least have Spotify open or something. But either way, welcome back to literally
Episode
me.
15.
15? 1 5?
Yep. Yep.
Jeez. All right, episode 15. Welcome back. Good to be back again. We've been doing this a little bit more consistently. Back with my boy Dino, all the way in Germany, and we're excited to talk some movies. Excited to talk about
Very
this one.
excited. Very excited about this one and just talk about it with you because it's a very interesting film. And
Yes,
we have a lot to discuss here, a lot to
we
unpack.
do. Yeah, and for those who are unaware or can't read the Spotify title of the episode, today's episode is on the Heartbreak Kid, not the Ben Stiller remake. Unfortunately, it is the original from Elaine May with Sybil Shepherd and Charles Grodin. But before we get into that, Dino, I gotta know, you seen anything dope this week?
I did watch a couple of things. Let me just pull up my letterbox as always. But I did watch some great films. Okay. So I rewatched the Mission Impossible. Well, I watched Rogue Nation and Fallout because I saw Dead Reckoning Part 1 in theaters 2 days
Hmm.
ago, 3 days ago.
Okay.
Absolute banger.
So
Absolute.
I've heard.
Tom Cruise is insane. That man is just, I mean, I don't know what they're giving him, like whatever they give him to stay young and do these things, because how the fuck is he that old doing this kind of crazy shit?
It's wild. Is he
It's
is
crazy.
he is he just like jumping out of planes through the sky? Just
He's well, for the next one, he's hanging on a plane. For this one, he jumped off a mountain with a motor across
oh my God.
and then pulled his parachute and landed on a train.
And he's actually doing this, they say,
He's
right? Like
he's
he's
doing this.
actually doing that.
Yeah. Well, he
That
didn't land on the train, but he
yeah.
jumped off a cliff on a motorcycle,
And pulled a
motocross,
parachute.
and pulled the parachute.
Still very impressive. I'm not launching off a
At
cliff on a
at his
motorbike.
age,
How old is he? Like 60, probably?
he's 50 something.
Okay. Yeah. That's insane. That is
That is
absolutely insane.
wild. He really, I mean, he just tries to kill himself every film, and
He
it's
he
a joy to watch.
I kind of want to check it. I'm not a big Mission Impossible fan, to
Mhm.
be real. I remember seeing Ghost Ghost Protocol. Is
Ghost
that one of them?
Protocol, yeah.
I remember seeing that one in theaters, but I don't know that I even saw all of, like the previous three or four or however many there were prior to that. But I kind of want to go through just to support Tom because he really is like the ultimate action star, right?
He is.
Like there's no one else.
Nope. He is a legend, and I'm so thankful to be alive in this time right now to witness what he's doing. I mean, he's going to space
Yeah.
soon to shoot an action scene in space. This
Actually, for what
actually,
movie?
yeah, it's not announced which movie, but it's one with
Top Gun
McQuarrie.
3. Top Gun 3.
Maybe they're going to space. But yeah, with the Mission Impossible director, Christopher McQuarrie, I
Oh,
think.
cool.
So they have a special, they have one musical they want to do soon
Together.
together, yes. And they're
Ooh,
doing, well, doing one more Mission Impossible, and then they're going
to
to
space.
space. He's going as well. So the director and Tom Cruise are going to space and shooting an action scene
Yeah,
sequence.
Tom Cruise is the fucking man, dude. I'm gonna get on this. I'm not gonna sleep on Mission Impossible any longer.
Please do. I think you're gonna like the first one. It's directed by Brian De Palma.
Yes, yes. It's the only one of the few De Palma films I don't think I've
Mhm.
seen. I probably have caught it on TV. I'm guessing as a kid I
Maybe.
had to have,
Yeah.
but I don't remember anything about it apart from the music.
Check it out. The second one I don't like that much. The third one is then J.J. Abrams.
Okay, who
And
directs the
he
second one? Isn't it John
it
Woo?
was John Woo, yes.
Oh, our boy from Hard Target.
Yep. I don't like that one, to be honest. Not
Okay.
a big fan of that one. But then with the third one, it gets back on track, and J.J. Abrams definitely pushes it in the direction that it's going, that it went.
Is
And
Ghost
then it's
Protocol the fourth one?
That's the fourth one, directed
Okay.
by the guy who did Incredibles. What's his name?
Oh, I don't
Brad
know who
Bird.
directed that movie.
Brad Bird.
Okay.
He also did The Iron Giant.
Oh, okay.
Yep. He's I mean I like him and that movie is very good. But then after McQuarrie takes over, I mean he rewrote the fourth one because they were trying to get Tom Cruise out of there. They had Jeremy Renner
Okay.
and they wanted him to take over. And then McQuarrie took over to rewrite it. And then he noticed the movie doesn't work because they were just constantly trying to write out Tom Cruise for the future ones.
I see.
So he changed it. It was a huge success. And then he got to direct Rogue Nation, which there he's on the side of a plane and all kinds
I'm
of,
I'm
yeah,
looking through some now. That was the follow-up to Ghost Protocol.
yep. And that's where it like really gets going. And then there comes Fallout afterwards, which is the one of the best action movies ever made.
That's crazy. I'm looking through the letterbox, like I'm going through each one that's on there,
Mhm.
and it literally each rating, apart from of like Mission Impossible 2, actually
Yep.
drastically drops compared to number one. But every
Mhm.
one, like one, three, four, they each go higher, the rating.
Yep. Yep.
Would you say each movie gets better?
They get better each time. They get
Wow.
crazier and just the stuff he does, it's insane. It's just
So would
absolutely
would
for
you say this new
Fallout,
one's your favorite?
it's the tough one because Fallout and the new one are both just top notch. I gave them both 5 stars.
Okay.
They're
Okay.
insane. They're some of the best action movies ever made. And there's a scene, I don't know if you have you played Uncharted 2 or like at least seen
No.
it.
No, I don't.
There's a train sequence in the beginning, and this one, I don't know if it was directly inspired by it because I'm not sure if the writers and the director play video games, but it
Mhm.
feels like it's inspired from that, and it's just one of the best action scenes ever.
From someone that I saw review it, a friend on Letterbox said that like it might have the best like train scene of
Yep,
any film just like in history.
100%,
Wild. That's insane.
100%.
So is
And
this new one your favorite of all of them?
it's a tough one. It's between Fallout and that one. But
Okay.
this new one, I'm not kidding, especially with the train sequence, I was just sitting there and I couldn't close my mouth.
Damn. I'm gonna get into it. I'm gonna get into some Mission Impossible this week. You're gonna
Please
see on the
do.
Letterbox.
Please do. We got to talk about it. I would love to hear your thoughts.
Damn, that's dope though.
Yep.
Shout out to Tom Cruise, a big
Shout out to Tom Cruise.
the biggest
Legend.
action star in the world, legend. You see anything
Hell
else
yeah.
cool?
Speaking of trains, before watching Dead Reckoning Part 1, I watched a movie that the director said inspired the train sequence.
Okay.
And that is the Buster Keaton film, The General.
The General.
Have you ever seen that one?
I think they showed it to us in like a film class, like my first year of college.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've certainly seen like all like the very famous like sequences and whatnot in there, but yeah, I'm due for a rewatch for sure.
It's a banger. It's another 5 out of 5 stars. And funny enough, I watched both at the same day,
Oh,
and I had
really?
bangers, two 5 out of 5 on the same
Did
day, which was
did you run it? Did you run the General after seeing Mission Impossible, or did you
before
first before seeing?
because yeah, because I had some time to kill, and then I saw that the director said that they were heavily inspired by it,
Cool.
and he wanted to do a train sequence because of that film. So I thought, why not check it out? And it's so good. Seriously, like I don't know how, but Buster Keaton was that generation's Tom Cruise.
He was the GOAT.
Did so many. I mean, that was actually a moving train. He died. He almost died multiple times during
Oh yeah.
filming.
Dude, there's so many like great Buster Keaton like bits, and I forget
Mhm.
which. I don't think it's from the General, but the one with the big building that falls down, and he's like in the window, like so, like it just falls down, like this entire front side of a building falls down, and yet he's
Mhm.
untouched because the window falls perfectly like around him where he's standing. I don't think it's the General. I'm gonna give it a goof.
Not, but that's crazy.
Yeah, he was really fearless.
He was insane. And I mean, seriously, he was that generation's Tom Cruise. He was just the stuff he did is unreal.
He was, yeah, oh, it's from Steamboat Bill Jr.,
Mhm.
which came out like a couple years after The General. But that's a great physical bit. That's really insane. And there weren't really the precautions back then either
Nope.
that there are nowadays too, which Tom Cruise, I guess, kind of subverts that and kind of goes against that. But
Mhm.
just in general, like that option wasn't even really there back then.
Mhm. And it's just crazy. And I need to watch more of his films because that was the first Buster Keaton film I like watch in its entirety. I've seen clips here and there, but
Yeah,
this movie is just so good. And it enhanced my experience watching Dead Reckoning afterwards.
yeah.
It just made it a million times better. And it was just so good.
Was
Seriously,
the
like,
was the list that you saw, was it that like letterbox um list that letterbox has been doing like themselves, or they've been doing like videos
yeah.
where they've been like talking about like all like the films that inspired it or were like super influential?
They talked to him on the red carpet, but I
Okay,
saw
okay.
they did another one with Greta Gerwig, and they talked about the
That's
Barbie list. I
because
saw that.
I watched that one yesterday, so I was wondering if it was like the same kind of thing.
It was kind of like this, but it was still in early stages because they probably didn't get the time to do it just like
Fully.
in a room. So they did it on the red carpet, I think. Or maybe
Cool.
he did it in, I'm
Yeah,
actually
because
not sure.
I'm looking here.
Maybe he
It's
sat down with them.
there is one here that I'm on Letterboxd YouTube,
Hmm.
and yeah, he goes through. I'm gonna give this one a watch because just from like the look of it, he's already got some really dope movies on here that I really like.
Yep.
So yeah, that's cool. I like that Letterboxd is doing that.
My memory is not the best. So, okay. So he did sit down with them.
Yeah, that's super cool. I'm gonna check that one out for sure.
Yep. And
Hell yeah.
that's about, yeah, that's everything I watched. But what did you watch? I know you watched something we're going to discuss, but
Yeah.
apart from that, or do you want to start with that one?
Um. Well, hold on. Which one are you talking about?
I'm talking about Spider-Verse.
Okay, we can start with
Mhm.
Spider-Verse. I think I
Okay.
saw that right after we finished recording the last episode. I
Yep.
think I went to go see it.
Hmm.
Um, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't really. And the more I think about it, I think the less I like it, even more.
Hmm.
Um, the only thing, and I said this about Dune as well, is I hate when a movie goes in, and I don't know, maybe even Mission Impossible, they might do this since it's part one.
Yep.
But I just don't like the trend now of movies that do the whole part one, part two of an ending
Hmm.
thing. Um, just because it's just like, damn, like it's not cleaned up. Like it's something that's like in hindsight, if you discover it, it's like that's
Yep.
totally fine because I can just go put on the other one right now. But then
Hmm.
this, I like sit there, I'm like, fuck, now it's gonna be another like what 3 years until I can actually see what happens. I'm gonna have to
Hmm.
revisit this, and I'm not gonna remember shit that happened. And it's just I don't like that it ended, and it makes it anticlimactic. And the whole thing
Hmm.
about a movie that I like is that I like movies that do clean up nicely.
Hmm.
That's like the point of a movie. Otherwise, it's television, which is fine. It's just a separate thing.
Yep.
Um, so for me, I'm just like, I wish all the cliffhanger stuff was just saved for TV because I go to movies to have it all closed off into one thing.
Hmm.
But yeah, that's not even the fault of the movie. It's just Hollywood in general. You see TVs bleeding more and more into film. So
Hmm.
I'm not really mad at it. I was just a little underwhelmed, I think. And I think because I loved the first one,
Yep.
across, you know, into the
Into.
Spider Verse,
Into, yep.
um, and I really loved it a lot. And you know me, I am not like a Marvel dude. Like I'm not into that kind of stuff really. And even animated movies, I'm not really watching that many. But I loved Into the Spider Verse.
Hmm.
So I went in with high expectations, and from everyone on the planet who's like, "This is the best movie." It's the same thing when Maverick came out, and everyone said,
Yep.
"This is the best film that has ever been made." And then I
Hmm.
watch it, I'm like, "It's not even in the top 1,000."
Hmm.
So when I saw this, there was just too much expectation, which I hate. I hate it because if I would
Yep.
have gone in just blind, I probably would have liked it a lot more.
Hmm.
But I think the only thing with me that really kept me off on it was that it was just too much of like the spectacle of it, I guess. It
Mhm.
was a little bit too much what do they call it? Sensory overload for
Yep.
me personally. And I know a lot of people really like that, and that's why it works. And again, it's not that it's wrong or anything, it's just
Yep.
not for me personally.
That's
Um
valid criticism because, it's not for everyone. And I understand what you mean. I mean, it's only a year, but I think it's going to get pushed back. I don't think we're
yeah,
going to get the next one.
I think it'll be probably 2 years at least because remember at the end when like all the editors were coming out, they're like they pretty much were holding us in like concentration camps editing this thing for 20
Yeah.
hours a day.
That's why I think, because I don't think they even did more animation since the. I don't know if that's true, but apparently they didn't really move forward with the animation since the movie came out. So I
Okay.
don't know if they'll be able to, because the first one, well, the Across the Spider-Verse got pushed back a year because that was supposed
Right.
to come out last year.
Oh, okay.
So maybe they're just like not announcing that it's gonna get pushed back because they want to keep the hype going, and then once the hype goes down, they're gonna be like, oh, we need one more year, a half year more.
Yeah. I'm sure
Which,
that's what'll I'm sure that's
mhm,
what'll happen.
yeah. But I understand with the sensory overload because it's a lot to take in.
Yeah, it was just too much going on at one time for me to even like keep track. Whereas across the, or I mean, into the Spider Verse, there
Mhm,
was a lot going on. Like it's just part of the design of this film and the feel,
mhm,
but it felt simpler in a way to me.
yeah.
So I was like, I can follow this, and all this is just adding to it. This, it's
Mhm,
like, look over here. No, no, now look over here. Now there's this guy. Now this guy. Now this guy. And it was just so much going on. I even dozed off for like 5 minutes. I was like, it was just too much that I needed to rest my eyes.
didn't focus.
Um, but um, but it wasn't the worst thing in the world I saw.
Mhm,
I still gave it the 3 stars. If it's under 3 stars, in my opinion, I just don't rate it because I'm just like I'm not
mhm,
gonna shit on this thing. So I still
yeah,
enjoyed it. This isn't to say
that's
I
good.
really hated it, but I really my expectations I think got ahead of me. And
Mhm.
is Beyond the Spider Verse gonna be the last one?
It's the last one. It's supposed to be this
Okay,
trilogy, and it'll like end this story.
and then they'll probably create a whole universe around it or
They're
something
all
if I had to
they're
guess.
making a Spider-Gwen spin-off
Uh,
film from this. But
yeah.
they said like there's just gonna be 3 movies of this Spider-Verse thing. It's gonna
And
like
it'll be done and concluded this
it'll
story.
be done. The
Okay,
point is to show that everyone can be Spider-Man. That's the point of this trilogy, they said.
cool, cool.
And
And
maybe you like it more when the next one comes out.
that's what I was gonna say. I think I'll probably really enjoy the last
Mm.
one because
Yep.
it will finally sum it all up and close it up.
Mhm.
Because the first one, it still cleaned up the movie nicely.
Yep.
That's it.
That's true.
That's the thing too. And this is the thing where at least Dune prefaced it, and
Hmm.
now Mission Impossible is prefacing it. Freaking Harry Potter even prefaced it by saying this is part one.
Hmm.
They didn't go into and say, "Hey, this is Beyond the Spider Verse Part One," but
It
they're,
was it was called that before it.
oh,
So
really?
at
They
the
should have
beginning, it
done
was
that.
called Across the Spider-Verse Part One and
They
Across the
should have
Spider-Verse
kept
Part
that.
Two. But then they changed the name because I don't know. I mean, Infinity War and Endgame did it as well. I think it's just a trendy thing to do.
Yeah.
But you see other studios, other like franchises still do it. Mission Impossible,
Yeah.
Dune. So, but yeah,
It
but the
was probably
writers.
just to clean
Mhm.
it up, like in the trilogy, for when you look back, it's a little cleaner
Yeah.
if each one has a different name, maybe. What were you going to say?
The producer actually said, and I found that very interesting. Before that, they said they wanted to make this generation's Empire Strikes Back because
Okay.
back in the day, Empire Strikes Back left everyone with this feeling like oh shit, like what's gonna happen, and this.
But Empire Strikes Back, the film was still cleaned up nicely, and you can still watch it as a single film.
That's true. That it
And this
ends.
you can't really watch it as a single film because it's not finished.
That's true. The story is not with Empire Strikes Back. You could leave it like that because they're in a bad situation and a bad place, but it could end there possibly.
Yeah, it's not a cliffhanger, so to
Yeah,
speak. It
that's
leaves it
true.
open like the end of Inception. You wouldn't say that that's like continuing on. It's just it left
Mhm.
it open ended or
Yep.
left it like, oh, where could this go or
Mhm.
something like that. But I wish they would have done the part one because then I could have at least gone in and be like, okay, I
Mhm.
know that it's not going to end here. But when I go in expecting like a movie to be cleaned up all nicely, and then they're like, no, the movie's not over yet. You're gonna have to wait 4 years for another 2 hours. Then it's just like, damn, dude. Like, I wish I would have known that because I would have gone not seen it. Like, I would have just waited for the
Yep.
next one to come out.
Maybe that's why
Um,
they didn't do it because a lot
that's
of
why
people
it's all about the bottom dollar. Really, at the
they
end of the day, because I wouldn't have gone.
they can't expect people because I knew that it was gonna end with a cliffhanger. I just had a
Okay,
feeling,
yeah,
but they can't expect it from people because my screening I went to the premiere, people were booing, but not because they hated the movie.
but
They
just
were
because they
like,
wanted more.
shit, why did this end? I want to see more. People were
Yeah,
like, why is this happening? But they loved it. Afterwards, they're like,
yeah.
oh, this was so good. I just wish it would have kept going, which is a good thing. I mean, the movie was so good. You want to see how it ends. You're not like, oh, when is this going to end?
And that's
So,
the thing. That's the thing too. At the end of the day, I'm partially upset because I do like the characters in it. So I'm just like,
mhm,
fuck, man. Like, just give me what I want. I want to see it.
yeah,
It's not like I go in, I'm like, I hate this shit, or else I wouldn't care. Then I'd be like, I'm not even gonna
mhm,
watch the next one because I don't care.
mhm,
I do care
yeah,
because I want to see what happens because I like the characters a
yeah.
lot. And I hope freaking John Mulaney comes back as Porky
Spider
Peter
Ham.
Porker Spider Ham. Yeah.
He will. He
Uh,
was there at the end.
at the
So,
very end, yeah.
yeah,
I loved and I think Nick Cage and they'll all come back, I'm
mhm,
guessing, for the
they're all
last
coming back.
one.
And I have a
And that's
theory for who
what?
else could. I'm not going to tell you, but as a Spider-Man fan, I think we could potentially see more live action people joining in.
Really?
Maybe. I mean, I think they're holding
I
something
I
special.
ooh, okay. Well,
I'm just saying
don't be
I
you
think they
never
might
know.
because we had live action people in this one. So
Yeah. That was
could
cool to
happen.
see them splicing Donald Glover like that. That was pretty neat.
So in the costume, so freaking
I've
cool.
never seen that before.
He played his uncle in the live action MCU Spider-Man. So
Oh,
he wasn't
really?
probably there. We just didn't see Miles. But he said he has a nephew. So they teased. Yeah, that's it was an Easter egg. He plays
Oh,
Uncle
I didn't even
Davis,
know that.
Aaron Davis in the MCU. Yep.
Damn. Okay. Cool.
And
Well, that's
fun
cool.
fact, Miles was actually inspired by Donald Glover.
Interesting. I can see that. I can see that for
Yep.
sure, actually.
Mhm.
That makes total sense.
But hell yeah,
Um,
I'm excited.
but yeah,
And I mean,
I saw that and I'm excited. I will go see the next one still. I
mhm,
still will. There's no doubt about it.
maybe you
Um,
like it more. We'll have another discussion in 1 year, one
for
and a half years, two
in
years.
2-3 years,
Mhm.
whenever the next one comes out.
Yep.
And I have a feel, like you said, I think once I see it and I can go like revisit this one and then go immediately into Beyond the Spider-Verse or whatever, I
Yeah.
think I probably will be able to appreciate it more. But just as like a standalone thing, it was like, wish there was
Yep.
more.
I
I'll
just
just talk
hope they
about
pay the writers and animators more for the next one because that's a bit
yes,
shit.
yeah, and not lock them down like they're in Guantanamo Bay under these. Like that was crazy how these
You
people were
have to animate.
Spider-Man.
Yep.
Literally, like they were just being tortured.
Mhm.
Um, okay, one more movie I'll talk about real quickly before we get into
Mhm.
our movie for today that I saw.
Yep.
Um, Probably the best movie that I've seen since we've last talked, apart from the movie for today.
Hmm.
And hold on, I'm gonna pull it up on Letterboxd just because I'm curious to know if you've seen it. No, okay, I don't see you on there. So
Hmm.
this is a movie that came out in 2016 and it was directed by Park Chan-wook and it's called The Handmaiden. I'm sure you've at least heard of it.
I've heard of it. There's also a TV show. I've never seen it, but I need to watch it.
Wait, there's a TV show about this movie or continuing
There's
it
a
on?
I don't know if it's a continuation or like a retelling and then just expanding the universe, but there is a TV show.
Whoa, I didn't know that.
Yep. I'm not sure if it's HBO, but there is a Handmaiden.
You're not thinking of The Handmaid's Tale, are you?
I am. Is that not the same?
Unrelated.
I thought it was the same.
I don't I don't think so. Uh
I think it's the
Maybe there is some weird connection, but from what I heard, because it's based on a book, The Handmaid's Tale. Like
Mhm.
the TV show is based on a book, and
Okay.
this is not based on that. book.
Okay. Well, I haven't seen the movie, the TV show. I haven't read the book, so I'm not sure. So,
If it would, it very well could. I'm not going to say it's not. To me, I would be I have no idea how they would connect
mhm.
at all.
I
Because
thought
I've
it was
seen I've
just
seen a little bit of the show,
mhm.
like just a very little bit, and I don't
Okay.
see any connection personally.
Okay.
But
So maybe
it
that
could
was
be.
just something I thought because of the name, but
Maybe because I told my girlfriend about this too, and she said the same thing. She thought it was like The Handmaid's Tale. She's like, "Oh,
mhm.
with Elizabeth Moss," and I'm like, "No, that's the TV show that they
Okay.
did."
Okay.
So
Well,
it
tell us
could be or
about
it
the
could be the
movie.
name. Anyway, the movie's really
Mhm.
cool. Directed by Park Chan Wook, who did the original Old Boy.
Hell yeah.
Obviously, have you seen Old Boy?
I have.
Yeah, that movie's dope. And this one is like it's just as like nuts with the way that it's constantly twisting and turning, and it is insane how it is just reveal after reveal after reveal after reveal. And it's not even that it's just constantly like twisting and turning, it's the way that he chooses to reveal the information.
Mhm.
And it really add this to the watch list, man. This is a it really goes to some heavy places,
Mhm.
but it is very well worth it. It's constructed, I mean, perfectly. And like I said, the way in which he chooses to tell the story is really something where you kind of step back, you're like, damn, like that's how you like that's how you make a movie. Like that is
Mhm.
how you do it.
Hell yeah.
But it's really really good, and I'm sure I'm way late to the party. I'm sure a lot of people listening have probably already seen it. Um, but I was really excited to finally check it out, and I said this in my review. But if there's anything I've learned from film is that there really is no greater gift to cinema than lesbian partners. There really isn't. I mean, I can't think of any movie I see where there's two lesbians just together plotting something. It's the best movie ever made. So I cannot recommend this movie enough.
I'm trying to see if it's available
It was on
anywhere.
Prime in the States because it's an Amazon original, so you might still get it on Prime over there in Germany, maybe.
Well, The Handmaid's Tale is on Amazon Prime over here, but The Handmaiden, let me see. Well, it's available to rent.
Okay, if you can at least rent it, then I mean, I
I
highly
need to.
recommend.
I've been
It,
meaning
it
to watch it, but I
it's really
need to.
good, and it made me really
I'll
want to
check it out.
go more into Park Chan Wook's
Mhm.
filmography because I've seen Old Boy, obviously Handmaiden, and then I saw his film from last year, Decision to Leave. Did you see that
Yeah,
one?
I
I saw that
haven't
one
yet.
in Okay, I saw that one in theaters and didn't love it nearly as much as I loved this movie
Oh boy,
um and Old Boy, but it still is something you see. You're just like, damn, this guy's like good at what he does. Like he's
yeah,
very good at his job, you know.
he is.
But it's just
So
constantly showing like that's how you just pull a movie. And in contrast, I saw this other movie called Searching with John Cho like a couple
yep,
days after.
seen
Have you
that
seen
one.
that one?
Yes,
What did I'm curious to know what you thought about that movie.
I liked it. It was it. I always thought I knew what was going on, and then it just went in a different direction.
Hmm.
It was just always like I'm not sure. It's been a while, but I just remember thinking, "Oh, I know what's going on," and then it just did something
Yeah.
completely else. And they made a new movie. I think it came out this year in that universe.
Really?
Yeah, and it's not. I don't know if it's about another
Oh, Missing. It's called Missing.
missing, and it's in the same universe. I don't know why would. They probably just wanted to cash in on the success from the first
Yeah.
one. I'm not sure how they're connected. If there's similar, like same characters.
Maybe writer. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, but apart from that, I mean, it's just about missing people. Of course, it's set in our universe, but
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. But I need to
But
watch the new one as well.
yeah, I'm curious to check it out. And of
Did you
course,
like the?
so this is what I'll say about Searching, which spoiler
Mhm,
alert for anyone who has not seen it, just skip ahead like maybe 2 minutes.
mhm,
Um, it's super funny. I was sitting there, I'm watching it with my girlfriend. We're watching, and the movie just constantly is doing all these twists.
Mhm.
At there were probably about 7 or 8 different points while watching it where
Mhm.
I'm like, "Oh my god, wouldn't it be hilarious?" I'm like, I have a feeling the brother's like banging the daughter. And then there's this reveal where it comes across that happens. I'm like, shit. And then we're watching, I'm like, wouldn't it be funny if the brother's like, no, 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 we were just smoking weed together. And then that is what happened. And then I'd
Yep.
be like, I guarantee you, like, it'd be crazy if like the FBI agent was in on it. And then 5 minutes later, she's in on
Mm.
it. I'm like, I bet you she's just protecting her son. And then she's protecting her. So like everything that I'm like, oh, wouldn't it be crazy? Like half jokingly, it all
Mhm.
actually happened. So for me, it's the only movie, which I'm not even trying to like stroke myself by saying this. I just felt like any half joke I made about where the plot was going to go, that's where it went. Like literally every time.
That
Um,
probably made the experience very cool to watch it because it's just so funny that you predicted everything happening.
it made the experience very funny, particularly when because it's so silly. Like I meant it
Mhm.
so much as a joke when they like there's this idea of incest that they play with in the film for a second. So I'm like, it would be so funny if he tries to get out of it by saying like, "No, we were just smoking weed together," because John Cho's like super anti-weed or some shit.
Mhm.
And then that's literally what happens. I'm like, this is a joke, right? I'm like, you can't subvert like actual incest, rape, like with, like it was just weird.
Mhm.
Um, so it was fun. It was fun just to be like, this is so silly. But the main thing with me is I didn't like the whole how everything was through FaceTime. Like every
Mhm.
shot was through like FaceTime or whatever.
Yeah.
That just kind of threw me out of it a little bit. But it's a really cool idea, and I'm sure this director will probably come up with some cool stuff. I think it was his debut from what I was reading. Um, so I'm cool, and I love John Cho, and he's good in everything. I'm glad he got like a good starring role to carry a film, even if I found it very predictable and
Mhm.
a little silly, honestly. But I'm super curious to check out what this director does too. I saw he did a follow up to this with Sarah Paulson called Run. I think it came out like 2 years after.
I watched that one.
Is it shot with real cameras this time, like an
It
actual
is.
movie? Okay,
Yep.
cool. Was
It's
it good? The reviews
it's
are not as good as they were for Searching.
it's tough because it is a good film on paper, but
Uh,
I don't know if I liked it that much because there's also like these big twists and it does get intense, but at the same time was always like, I'm not sure. Did I give it? Let me check if I give it a heart because if I like a movie, I give it a heart.
I'm gonna take a look here just because I just pulled it up.
I didn't. So yeah, it was just
It
it
was
was
just
interesting.
serviceable.
Yeah, it was. I don't know if I like the plot twist. It made it more interesting, but it was also like, oh,
It
it.
took you out of it a bit.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. I'll still check it out. Like I said, there are flourishes here. Like Searching, all in all, is not a terrible movie. It's just very predictable. So I am curious to see what else this guy does, though. Chaganti.
Check
Um,
out Run. It is very interesting concept, so you
I'll check it
might like
out.
it.
It's on Hulu too, and the reviews aren't bad. It's just a little less favorable than
Yeah.
Searching. So I'll definitely give it a stab and see what I think about it. But yeah, I'm about ready to get into our movie of the week though, if you are.
I am. Let's
All
do
right.
it.
All right. Well, I'm excited to hear what you think. And today's episode is about the Heartbreak Kid from 1972, directed by Elaine May, starring Charles Grodin and Sybil Shepherd. And for those who have not seen the film, per usual, we're going to talk about the whole thing. So if you want to pause it and go on and watch it, definitely come on back and listen to it because this is definitely one worth watching,
Yep.
um, in my opinion. Well, let me give a brief little synopsis, and then
hmm
we'll talk about it some more. So the Heartbreak Kid, like I said, is directed by Elaine May, and is starring Charles Grodin. He is a sporting goods salesman who has just gotten married. And after the wedding, he is on his way to Miami for his honeymoon with his wife. And on the way, he starts to sort of learn about some various quirks about his wife. Her name is Lila or Lila, I think. he starts to notice some quirks about her that maybe he wasn't aware of prior to their wedding. To which point he always says, in Virginia, I had a feeling, but in Georgia, I knew that I wanted out. And by the time I got to Florida, I tried to get out. But they go and they make it to Miami. And while they're there on the first day, Charles Grodin meets a young lady named Kelly, who's played by Sybil Shepherd. And she's in town in Miami, like on like a vacation with her parents. And after the first day, Lila gets super sunburned and has to stay in the hotel room. So Charles Grodin's character, his name is Lenny, he takes advantage of this and keeps her in the room so he can go out and try to find Sybil Shepherd. And while they're out there, he ends up falling madly in love with her, while his new wife is laying in the hotel room for most of the film with crazy sunburns. Um, Lenny ends up meeting Kelly, played by Sybil Shepherd's parents. At which point the father even offers him like up to $25,000 to leave her and the family alone. And eventually, on the last night of their vacation, Charles Grodin goes to his new wife and tells her that it's all over. And he goes all the way up to Minnesota, where Sybil Shepherd and her family is from. And he tries to win her back, only for her to seem completely disinterested, as if he was just some random guy that she said hello to or spoke to for 2 minutes in Miami. He's very much he's very much shocked by this, and is very surprised by it. But soon he's able to convince Kelly to marry him. They get married, and it ends with Charles Grodin sitting all alone. He was talking with a couple kids, and they left him, and he's sitting in kind of a contemplative state, sort of like Benjamin Braddock at the end of The Graduate, which we'll get into that in a second as well. But curious to know your thoughts. I know that this was a first time watch for you.
What an asshole.
He's an
What
asshole for
an
sure.
asshole. I liked the movie, but it made me sad because I just felt bad for the wife.
Yeah, for sure.
I felt so bad for her. I mean, she genuinely loved him and
Yeah.
cared about him. And he just like, oh, she eats chocolate at night. She's a little bit annoying. Let's move on to the next one. And that's what I liked about the end, where he realized, like, what have I done?
Yeah,
Which, as you mentioned, The Graduate felt very much like that ending.
100%.
And he is just, I did not like him.
One bit.
Nope. I mean, it's, I'm not, it's, it just made me really sad. And I talked to Rope,
Uh-huh.
who he watched the movie. He listened to the episode, like the last episode, I think, this morning or last night, and then he watched
The
this
Heartbreak
one.
Kid.
Yep, and he said he's preparing to listen to this podcast, and he said the same. It just made him sad. Like that guy is just an asshole. So yeah.
It's Yeah, and I don't know if it's because I've seen it so many times, but I
Mhm.
gotta be honest, I kind of like him in a weird way. He's very unlikable, but I
Yeah.
still very much like him, and obviously not to the extent of him, but in a
Mhm.
small way, I can almost kind of relate to him in a very small
Mhm.
sort of way.
I understand that because
Um,
it also applies to other things. When you have something good and there's something better, and you're like, oh, I want
exactly,
this, and then you get it, and like, oh, like this really
exactly.
isn't it. So I understand definitely what you mean. The grass is always greener on the
And
other side,
the
sort of
best
thing.
way the best way that I heard it worded, I think, was from Roger Ebert in his review of the film, and he said this is a film about a man who would rather desire than possess. And
That's perfect.
it's perfectly worded
Yep.
because at the end, I don't even think that it's like, man, I wish I had my first wife back. I think it's just like,
Mhm.
I don't want this. I want
Yep.
someone else,
Yep.
anybody else.
And the movie could go on. Like he could at the
Oh,
end, he
for
could
sure.
at the wedding, he sees another woman, like, oh, I want her. And
Yeah.
then he gets her and he's like, oh, I don't want her anymore.
Yeah, I bet you once the cameras were shut off and say that world
Mhm.
continued on, that's probably
Yeah.
exactly. I can't imagine they stay married for very
Nope.
long at all. I'd be surprised if it lasted a year, honestly.
I like to think he just met another woman at the wedding and just continues
Yeah.
exactly like that. So
But yeah, this movie is really funny. And you said you
mhm,
hadn't seen the remake, right?
I
Either?
haven't. But
Okay.
I'm very curious to check it out, even though you told me it's not very good.
Yeah, but I still kind of want to see because I haven't seen it again in years. I actually saw it
Yeah.
before I ever even saw this one. They used to show it on TV in the States here
Hmm.
constantly, all the time.
Hmm.
So I watched it like a few times as a kid and always just thought like, oh, this is a goofy, funny movie. But then I realized there was this like original made, which let me mention is the only film that of all of my friends on Letterboxd, this is
Hmm.
the only film that I've seen that literally everyone has given it 5 stars. Every last person that I'm friends with on Letterboxd, who rates the films,
Yep.
has all given it 5 stars. Like it
Interesting.
really it I love that it kind of has this like cult status, even though it's
Hmm.
very much not. It has no proper release like at all, which is kind of a shame. But I'm also kind of curious to check out the remake again as well after seeing this movie so
Hmm.
many times. Um, but yeah, no, it never has got a real release.
Really?
There's a DVD release out there from a bunch of years ago that is like long out of print. Um, and I've heard, so I don't know the details, and maybe you might know. If not, we can do some research and talk about it some more in the future.
Hmm.
But I guess there's a lot of times I feel like Fox titles, from what I read, have a lot of trouble with getting re-released or anything like that.
Hmm.
I think Fox, when they have older films, they kind of just throw it into the vault and just kind of let it collect dust, and they
Hmm.
really only just focus on whatever's new. Whereas something
Yeah,
like Warner Brothers has like the classic section, or even MGM, they'll constantly go through the old stuff. I don't think Fox does.
they don't. You're right. And it's interesting because Disney owns them now. So you would think that Disney would
And if
could
anything, I think maybe it would make it even harder now because Disney
probably
is has it.
probably because I feel like they're swiping a lot of things just away. They're
Oh
like,
yeah,
okay, these are the Fox films we want to be associated with. The rest
exactly,
can go. And I mean,
exactly.
we see that. Did you like read the news that they deleted a film that came out with Kid Cudi? There was a film that
I've
released in
heard about this. I've
they
heard
just
about this.
it's gone. You can't watch it, and it just came out a couple months ago. You can't watch it anymore. It's
They
gone.
just deleted it entirely, right?
They just didn't want to pay residuals. They deleted it. Tax payout, tax write-off, whatever. You can't watch it. You have to, if you want to watch it, you have to go the illegal route, which is such a shame.
That's wild. To just actually erase a film is insane. This is why it's so important. If there are any filmmakers out there, own your rights somehow. Go, even if you got
Mhm,
to make your film for, a couple nickels and a bottle of, whiskey or something, whatever.
mhm.
Go out and make it in your own. So that way you can at least hold on to it. Or else you
And
you get fucked like that.
that's why like physical media is so important because
Yes.
if it came out and there was a Blu-ray DVD, people could still watch it and sell. How
100%.
you have like even with Chip and Dale, if Chip and Dale ever got deleted, I could never watch it again.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's a shame. And so
There's no physical release of Chip and Dale.
Rescue
And
Rangers the film, it came out on Disney Plus. So if they ever decide to delete it, which I'm scared of, it's just gone.
they never did a physical.
Nope. Not that I know of.
Whoa. That's
Mhm.
crazy. That's
And so
insane.
I understand what you mean. Like
Yeah.
Fox really now with Disney, I think it's
It'll make
even
it even harder. I think the only luck is if there was a film that was like deserving of like the Criterion treatment, this is
mhm,
like such a Criterion movie, it's not even funny.
it
Like this
is.
is so right up their alley.
So there's no way to watch this film except for like old DVDs and then YouTube
And then
someone
YouTube
uploaded.
where we watched it, which the quality is not great.
Nope.
So it makes it a little tougher.
Yeah, it's
Um,
watchable, but it's
it's
really
not
not.
great though.
Yeah.
If you can find a DVD, I'm sure it's probably better, but
Hmm.
it's going to be tough to find it. And at the very least, shout out to whoever uploaded it and has kept it on.
Hmm.
At least it's available to see in that way. So I will say that that's cool.
At least especially with Disney, like if you delete a movie, just let like give people a way to watch it for free.
Yeah. At the very least. I mean, what because
Yeah.
what do you don't hurt from that at all.
Nope.
Like you
I'm not
don't,
sure about the residuals. It's still a shitty thing to do because the actors deserve the residuals,
of course,
but like everyone deserves the residuals. But that's a discussion for
another
another
pod.
with the
Yeah.
strike going on and things. But
But yeah,
yeah.
it's a shame, and because I would love to see this. I would love to see like a good restoration. Like, and could you imagine just the look of this, like in an actual nice, clear, good, positive restoration? Like, it would look so good.
It would make it even better.
100%. Because this is the
And I
only
know
way that I've ever seen it was just this shitty rip on YouTube. The only way
that's what
I've
I
ever
wanted to
seen it.
say. Like you would be the first one to buy a physical copy of this
Yo,
return.
yeah, hell yes, hell
Fox,
yeah.
Disney, what are did it come? Is it a Fox? Like did Fox
I think
what
Fox
are they
produced.
doing?
Yeah,
What are they doing?
yeah.
It's a
It's a
shame.
shame, and I think I don't know legally. I think Criterion might still be able to license it regardless of
Mhm,
who owns it. Just like how they did like Wally, which is insane to me that Wally is like a Criterion movie.
mhm.
Like they could very much license it. If I had to get, I'm assuming someone's asked. Someone had from there had to have asked at some point. I find it hard
100%.
to believe that no one at Criterion or any other like rest label like that, it would
Mhm,
be hard for me to believe that no one has asked about it at all.
mhm,
Um, but yeah, I would love to see that. But one thing I do want to say, you
mhm,
mentioned before we talked, that's why I brought it up again. You
mhm.
mentioned The Graduate,
Yep.
um, which it's funny that you did mention that because that film was directed by Mike Nichols, and
Mhm,
this film was directed by Elaine May.
mhm.
And I don't know if you were aware of it or not, but they were in a improv comedy duo, Nichols and May, the two of them together.
Really? That makes
Yes.
a lot of sense.
Yeah. They did a lot of like they have like a lot of comedy albums. Like if you go on Spotify, they're still up there, some of them, I think.
Mhm,
But they would perform like these like comedic bits and things like that. And I think in terms of like comedians, a lot of them sort of look back as them as being like a huge like influence in modern comedy. But they both
mhm,
then began directing kind of around the same time. Mike Nichols beat her to the punch by about like 3-ish years, maybe,
mhm.
in maybe 3-4 years. But it's funny that you say that because there is that sort of connection between the two films, and I think they would pair very nicely as like a double feature, The Graduate and Heartbreak Kid.
100% they feel similar, like not just with the
In the
theme, but
feel, yeah,
the feeling of how it was directed. It just feels very similar.
yeah,
So like
because
you said,
there's
double feature for sure.
100% because there's that feeling of first and foremost both of them being just a comedy, just first
Mhm,
and foremost, but then also having that heart sort of. Even this one, there is still a little bit of heart in the Heartbreak Kid, I
yep.
think at least, and
Mhm.
Um, yeah, but that's funny. I wanted to mention that, and because there is that cool connection between the two of them. That's really neat, and I'm glad you caught on to that.
Definitely. That's one of the
What?
movies I wanted to mention when we go to the ones you would
Yes,
like, I think. The Graduate would
yes,
be one of them, but
100%. Did you have a favorite part of the Heartbreak Kid?
mm, I like the excuses he made. So especially the car crash, it was so ridiculous, and he was just like gaslighting her so hard.
Yeah,
She was like, she said something, and he just immediately comes up with something else. He's like, what was it? So it was
it,
like oil truck.
yeah. He's like the oil. Well, when he comes back and he says that they got into the accident with the oil truck, and she's like, I didn't hear anything. And he's like, oh no,
They're
no.
covering it up. The oil
Yeah.
corporations are covering it
Yeah,
up.
that's what it was. Yeah.
And then the next day he has to go to court for some
Yeah.
reason because of the accident, because his friend is trying to sue them.
Yeah.
And then he has a tan. He's like, "You were at the court. Why are you so tan?" He was like, "Well, they had someone before us, and then
Yeah.
there was a break, and then they have to come to a conclusion, and I was sitting outside just tanning." It's
He's
just
like, the
so
courts move
ridiculous.
so slow. You know how slow they move in Florida.
Mhm. That's so funny. That
I
was
I
really funny.
I love those two. My favorite is the very first one that he kind of does when he goes down
Mhm.
the second day and she's all sunburnt. And he's like,
Mhm.
no, I'm going to go down. I'm just going to kind of walk around. and he starts walking out, and he just comes back. He's like, "It is so hot out here. It is so hot. You are
Yep.
so lucky you have air conditioning." And he walks off. He comes back. He goes, "It is so hot," and then
Yep.
just runs off. And I love that scene so much. It makes me
Mhm.
laugh every time.
It's very funny. But
It's
like I
and
said,
he
yep.
and he's so quick too with each of them
Mhm.
too. Like you can tell that he's just constantly thinking of ways to just
Yep.
manipulate this poor woman.
He's
Um,
gaslighting her so hard. He just comes up with lies like it's nothing,
yeah,
which is very funny.
yeah. Which also the woman who plays the wife,
Mhm.
Lila, is played by Jeannie Berlin, who she's the daughter of the director Elaine May, as well. But she's very good. She's very, very, very funny.
Mhm.
And she was, for any Succession fans, she was in Succession.
Was she?
She was in Succession, that she was. She which it's funny because I didn't even recognize it until afterwards, like when I was doing like looking at this film again,
Mhm.
where I was like, wait, I was like, that's oh my god, she's in Succession too. And you see her in a lot. She was in The Night Of as well, I think, which was another HBO show
Mhm.
that I saw. And she was also in The Fablemans as well, if you saw The Fablemans.
Who did she play?
She played, I think she was the Paul Dano's mom, I think.
Oh,
Um
the grandma.
who's Bert? Was that Paul Damon? Yes, Paul Dano's mom. Yeah.
Okay, so she was the
And the
grandma.
grandmother. Yeah.
Okay, I didn't catch that.
Yeah, I did. I just looked at that just now.
Mhm.
Like I did not. I didn't catch that either until just now. I was kind of looking through her um, filmography, but she's so good. She's such a good
She is.
actress,
She is.
and she's super funny. The way that because she's very attractive too, like just as attractive in my opinion as Sybil Shepherd. But she makes herself so unattractive in this
Mhm.
movie too, and she does such a good job of it. Just not even just through the way that she looks or anything, but the way that she acts. How
Acts.
annoying she is when they're like sleeping together. She's like, "Do you
Mhm.
like it? How much do you like it? Is it as good as you
Mhm.
thought?" He's like, "Yes, it's as good as I
Yep.
thought."
He
Like,
just snaps, and he's like, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry."
he's like, and then she's like, "You've been so quiet." He's like, you know, I'm always quiet at night,"
Mhm.
and he's just always something. He's got some answer for.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, anyway, you see her. She plays Sid in Succession. So whenever you get around to that, you'll see her. I think probably in like season two. But yeah,
Whatever
yeah,
we
man,
like talk about, it always finds its way to Succession. I love that.
it really always does, or to something. Like we
Yep.
say every single week, that there is no more or there's no podcast with more
Mhm.
like coincidences or things related as literally me.
Yep.
But but yeah, I'm glad I'm glad you saw this movie first and foremost, because I think I'm like always trying to get people to see it because it's very accessible. I think that this has I don't it should be talked about, I think, alongside The Graduate, in my opinion.
Good. And because a lot of people are talking about The Graduate, and it's a very popular, it has a very like strong following, like a very, it's a cult classic. Even more so,
100%.
I think there's so many people, and I think everyone who watched that movie and liked it needs to check this out because they could discover a new favorite.
100%. Oh yeah.
Mhm.
And yeah, and like I said, it's I've seen it from everyone that I know who rates it on Letterboxd. Literally every last one is a 5 star, and I have not seen that for any other movie.
Mhm.
It's just a very likable movie, even though it's made up of many unlikable people, especially
Mhm.
our star. Very
Yep.
unlikable. Are you a fan or familiar in general with Charles Grodin,
Nope.
the lead actor?
I am not, and I'm very excited for you to educate me.
Yeah, he's been in a ton of stuff, like even like more recently. Well, he passed away probably like in the last 3-ish years, 2, 3 years.
Mhm.
But he's been in a ton of stuff. Like if you saw well, this was another Elaine May movie, Ishtar. Did you see that with Warren Beatty and Dustin Hoffman? A
I
lot of
haven't.
people rag on it as like one of the worst films ever made. I think it's very
Mhm.
misunderstood. I think it's very funny.
Mhm.
But the main ones that he's in that are popular are Midnight Run. He was in Beethoven. Did you see Beethoven with the dog? You know the dog Beethoven?
Yeah, yeah. I thought you were talking about the musician. I have seen the dog
He
ones.
he's like the dad. He's like the main dude in Beethoven.
Oh, wait, how many Beethoven films are there?
There's a lot. I think he was
There's
only in like maybe the
the,
first one or the
the
first
original one
two.
because they made so many, but I saw the original and then
Yes.
another one. But
He
he's
was, let me look here.
the
Okay, yeah,
original.
he's in the second as well.
Okay,
Yeah. Yeah, because those were the only two I think that were actually released theatrically. I think the others were all
great to
straight to
DVD.
DVD
Yeah.
kind of films.
Hmm.
Um but yeah, he's the dad in those two movies. And like I said, Midnight Run's a very funny movie with Robert De Niro and Charles Grodin that I highly recommend as well. Um and he's also plays a very small role in Rosemary's Baby as a doctor.
I haven't seen
So
that.
oh, you've never seen Rosemary's Baby?
Never seen Rosemary's Baby, and also have never seen Midnight Run.
Okay, Midnight Run you gotta check out. Now Rosemary's Baby you have to see just because
It's
that's
a
a
classic.
must. It's a
I've
must.
heard it from so many people. I've never seen it. It's a horror film, right?
Yes. Did you see the
Okay.
film Mother the with Jennifer Lawrence?
Yeah,
And
I've seen that one. Have you
that's
ever heard that?
it's a rip of Rosemary's Baby essentially.
Oh, does it have the same theme?
It's pretty much what's the guy's name? He did The Whale and he did Mother. What's his name? Darren
Aronofsky?
Aronofsky.
Hmm.
He essentially he pretty much ripped off Rosemary's Baby. It's like the same thing almost. It's just weirder than Rosemary's Baby is much better. It's way better.
Okay. I have
Um
to check it out then.
yeah, and because I remember seeing Mother in theaters and I never saw it again after theaters. But I
Hmm.
remember watching it and it's been like, "Oh, see he just remade Rosemary's Baby then."
Hmm.
I
Is it as
guess.
stressful as Mother?
Is it what? As what?
As stressful?
It's pretty tense because it's a lot
Mhm.
of the thing of trying to steal the baby from this woman and you feel it. If anything, it's more stressful than Mother, I think.
Okay, I'll
Um
check it out.
it's very good because Roman Polanski is regardless of him as a human,
Hmm.
he's a fantastic director and that film is directed, I mean, just
Hmm.
amazingly. Um but yeah, I highly recommend that movie and he's in it. He's like in a blink and you'll miss it kind of thing, Charles Grodin,
Hmm.
but I rewatched last October. I rewatched Rosemary's Baby for the first time in years. It felt like a proper like watch,
Hmm.
and I was like looking. I was like, is that Charles Grodin? And then sure enough, it was.
It is.
Um, but I highly recommend that movie. Yeah. Do you have
I'll As always,
any?
I watch horror movies in October. Like
Oh yeah,
October is dedicated to horror movies, so
one
I'll
hundred
add it
percent.
to the list for October and
I have a
definitely.
feeling that this pod will have a lot of fun come our October episodes as well.
Oh hell yeah. We're gonna
I have
do a
a
bunch
feeling.
of Halloween episodes and just
Yes,
talk about horror films.
we're gonna go crazy on here. But yeah, do you have any final thoughts about the Heartbreak Kid? I don't want to keep harping on about it because I could talk about it forever. I love this movie.
I could talk about it forever too because I think it's a very interesting film and
Mm-hmm.
very fun and it's just very well directed.
Yep.
And there's a lot to talk about because I mean I said he's a big asshole, but
Mm-hmm.
there's also sides to him that you can understand. So it
Yeah.
makes for interesting discussion because there's so many layers to it. And
One
that's what I
hundred
like
percent.
about it.
Yeah.
And you always see, okay, I can see where he's coming from, but the way he does it is a bit weird. And like I said,
Definitely.
I just feel bad for the wife. I just feel so bad for her.
I do too, and it was amazing casting having Sybil Shepherd in there too, especially at this
Mhm.
point in history. She had become sort of that person in real life.
Mhm.
She was at this point dating Peter Bogdanovich, the great director who directed Paper Moon.
Mhm.
He left his wife for Sybil Shepherd. So it was a bit of a meta sort of casting there.
Mhm.
They met when he cast her in the Last Picture Show, and
Okay.
that's what put her on, and she became this huge star. So casting her in
Mhm.
this was very genius on Elaine May's part because she knows that thing.
Mhm.
And the thing that I really like too is that she's never the one. It can be easy when you watch it and blindly can sort of be like, oh, she's, flirting with this married. She's really not. She's kind of
No.
letting him do it all.
Mhm.
She never admits to really liking him, finding him attractive. She never
Mhm.
like tries to be like, oh, you should. She's just like, I'm gonna be here
Mhm.
tomorrow. And she knows that he is so desperate that he will do whatever, but she doesn't have to actually verbalize
Mhm.
anything.
Yeah.
So,
She
which is
never
funny because
does
she doesn't
anything.
really do anything wrong, so to
Mhm.
speak.
She knows
She
how to manipulate him the way he tries to manipulate his wife.
and it's in a way she is actually doing perfect manipulation, and his is just a
Mhm.
complete mess. He's
Yep.
trying to figure it out, but she does it so precisely that he is literally coming up with the decisions himself.
Mhm. Yep. Exactly. The way
Yeah,
she
and
doesn't even have to do anything. He, like you said, he does everything for her pretty much.
exactly. And I really love that. And I love that it's not too harsh because other filmmakers and other people who've cast her and things have been harsh as well with her because they're like she's just this like in Taxi Driver when she plays Robert De Niro's love interest and on
Mhm.
paper in the script Paul Schrader's kind of brutal. He's like, there's Betsy, she's star fucker to the nth degree, and he literally pictured Sybil Shepherd, and it's kind of cruel in that way. But this kind of it's a little bit soft with her, and I do like that because I don't think at any point I don't know about real life, I don't know, whatever, but I do
Mhm.
like that they treat her in a way that she's not all bad. Where most movies would
Mhm.
probably be like, oh, check out this girl, this
Yep.
home wrecker.
Oh, yep. That's true.
But she's really not, and I really like her a lot. I love Sybil Shepherd, one of my
Mhm.
Hollywood crushes, I would say.
Mhm. It gives also her more layers because she's not just the girl who comes and destroys this marriage and has fun doing it. There's
Exactly,
more to her.
way more, and I kind of like. Uh, and it's funny because I almost forget about it every time I watch the movie that there's so much of it that does take place in Minnesota once they
Mhm.
leave Florida. There really is a full act and
Yeah.
some um, that takes place back there, and I always forget about that. And I really do love those scenes where, especially, she gets a little bit more vulnerable as
Mhm.
well. Um, like for like the first time that they sleep together, as well as a really really great scene that I like a lot.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I really love this movie, man.
Yeah, the wife just disappears. Like he just gives her half the money. Like I don't know. Did he sell his car? He gave
He
his
gave
wife.
her the car, and like some money, and he's like,
Yeah.
"This is a good deal." He's like, "For someone only married 4 days, most people married a year and don't even get this stuff."
Mhm.
He's still manipulating her,
Yeah.
even at the very
Like
end.
this is a good decision. You have to do
This is
this.
a great deal. Yeah,
Then she's just gone for the next
just gone.
hour, which
Yeah,
is crazy. I didn't expect it. I thought it was just gonna go more into that, and maybe she finds out. She's just gone.
gone. She's
Good,
done.
good for her. I hope she finds a husband who lets her eat her chocolate in peace.
Amen.
Seriously, man. She was just that made me so sad. She was just enjoying her chocolate, and he just judged her so hard
Yeah,
for that, and just gave her
yeah.
this disgusting look. At how could you eat this chocolate at night? Just let the woman eat her
Just let
chocolate,
the
man.
woman eat the chocolate.
If it
Yeah.
makes her happy, just let her.
Yeah. I love the one scene that just popped into my head when she first gets sunburned. And she's like, no,
Mhm.
it's be okay. You can just put the ointment on me that makes it go away. He's like, they haven't invented that. There's no such thing as ointment that makes it go away.
Yep, so funny.
And they're so good together too. Like
Mhm.
the actual wife and him too. Like
Mhm.
when he's like, I'm gonna go down to the bar for a bottle of beer. She's like, where are you going? He's like, I'm going to the bar for a bottle of beer. It's
Mhm.
just so many things like that where they're just talking at each other but not really listening to each other
Yep.
ever either.
And she's like, "When will you be back? When I finish my
Finish my
bottle."
bottle of beer.
So funny. Also, like how in the beginning when they were driving, they were so in love and just singing together,
Yeah,
and then it
yeah.
just goes
It
away.
just hits it once they like sleep together for that first time
Mhm.
as a married couple.
Mhm.
And she's like, "Do you like it? Is it as good as you thought? Tell me it's as good." Which is annoying, certainly. You
Mhm.
can't deny that.
Yep.
But but there are nicer ways of letting young ladies down than the
Mhm.
way that Lenny chose to to go about
Yep.
it for sure.
Yeah.
So we talked about The Graduate. Are there any other movies that you think would pair well with this movie?
The Graduate is like the only thing that came to my mind. I would have to think more about it. I feel like there is another film with like similar themes that I just can't think of right now. Do you have any?
Yeah, I'm trying to think as well. I'm kind of blanking. I was curious to know if you had any because The Graduate is the main one where this is like a perfect double feature.
Mhm.
Um, because I think of some of the other movies, which we can go back to your row that I did on your IG,
Yep. Yep.
where I always say that's like the perfect triple feature is The Graduate, The Swimmer, The Swimming Pool. But The
Hmm.
Swimmer and The Swimming Pool don't work very well with Heartbreak Kid.
No.
So that's why I was thinking I was like maybe those, but they don't really pair that well
Hmm.
with this movie. Maybe some other Elaine May films. She had because this was her second director film that she directed. Her first was one called A New Leaf
Hmm.
that she actually acted in.
Hmm. I
And she
haven't
did
seen a
that.
single of her films apart. Oh, this was the first one.
Dude, check out A New Leaf next. It's really
Hmm.
good. Um, and she's in it with Walter Matthau,
Hmm.
and it's really really good. It's she's like a botanist who like falls in love with like Walter Matthau, who's like this very rich um dude, and they kind of it's kind of like a will they won't they sort of thing, but they're also not very like they're not like a when you look at a couple together, you're like, they don't really match. But there is something kind of there. But it's a really, really funny movie as well. I'd highly recommend that. And probably would pair very well with this one, honestly.
Yeah. Then we have two.
Yeah.
If I think of more in the future, because there is like I have a feeling there's a film that would work well, but I just can't think of it.
Yeah, I do too. Maybe
Yeah.
next week once we have some time to think, we'll
Hmm.
be able to. But anyway, to wrap it up, I gotta know, and I think I already know what the answer is gonna be.
Hmm.
Um, for you, on a scale of one to 10 bottle of beers, how much is Lenny literally you, or are you literally Lenny?
Well, I want to say zero, but you put it a bit into perspective with just like how the grass is always green on the other side, and
Hmm.
with this concept just applying to different things. So maybe I'll give him a one or like a 0.5.
I
Yeah, but
really put into perspective then, huh?
you gaslighted me into thinking that it could be more. But
Yeah.
yeah, there's maybe like I'll say 0.5. Just if you apply it maybe to something else, but I can't
Yeah.
really relate to them. How about you?
Honestly, and I'm going to say this with a preface. I don't want people to sit here
Mhm.
and think that I'm, a piece of garbage person. Hopefully, you can vouch for me when the people come in the comments as they will,
Definitely, you are
that
not. You're,
you know
yep.
me. But I would go so far as to like a 6 or 7. I
Mhm.
very much relate to him.
Mhm.
Not to the extremes. I have never been in a position nearly as compromising as him
Mhm.
ever, and I hope I
Yep.
never am. But I'm very much a person who is always a what if kind of person, or
Mhm.
I always go back to the way Ebert said it: a man who loves to possess, or who wishes to desire over possess, and
Okay.
that I can very much relate to because I feel very much I am that way.
Mhm.
Um,
That I can. Yeah. Okay.
so with
That
that,
just.
that's why I say that like I very much
Mhm.
can, even though I've never been in a position like this and wouldn't dare ever.
Mhm.
I have way too much heart, I think, to even be like
Mhm.
not to compliment myself here, but
Yeah.
I don't think I could be as quite as harsh as he is.
Mhm. But I feel like what you said, I think a lot of people are that way. I think that's something that everyone has to an extent.
Definitely. And I think that's why the film works too, because
Mhm.
he's a piece of shit, but yet it's still relatable. And I think those are some of my favorite movies where the characters on paper are not likable at
Yep.
all, but
Mhm.
they're in positions where you can still kind of relate to them in a weird
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
And this is definitely one of those.
And it's very human because we as humans, we always desire more. That's just
Always.
basic trait, and that's what keeps humanity going, I feel like.
Yeah.
So
100%. If
yeah,
everyone was just content with every little thing, there would be no progression, I guess.
that's true. Exactly.
So there is that. Lenny walked so that way we could run. Is what I'm
Hell yeah,
getting at.
that's great. If we
Well,
had a tagline for each episode, that would be the one for
that's it.
this one.
Yeah. Shout out to Roger Ebert for the words of wisdom on that.
Hell yeah.
Well, we have some news to
Hmm.
close out this episode.
Yep.
Um, I mean, typically this would be the point where we pick next week's movie, but would you like to explain what next week's episode is going to be instead?
Well, next week is a very special episode, very special week, because there are two movies coming out that I think
Mm-hmm.
we're all just dying to see. There's a great double feature, and we are gonna do a little special episode for
Yes,
that.
sir.
And which movies are we gonna talk about?
It is going to be the Barbenheimer episode.
Hell yeah. So get your tickets ready. Hope you already have them
Yeah,
ready. Watch them, and then hey, we're here. We'll be here. We'll discuss both films and have a great
cannot
time.
cannot wait. And it's out, I think, literally everywhere in the world this week for both
Mhm.
movies.
Yep.
So I don't think there's any excuses from any listeners to be like, well, it's not out yet. And
Mhm.
I think it's literally out everywhere this week, this Thursday,
This
depending on
Thursday.
when this episode is out. I think it'll be out before then. Um,
Mhm.
yeah,
It will
this
come on
Thursday.
Wednesday, so you'll
Yeah,
hear it
tomorrow.
before that. And I hope
Yeah.
you're ready.
I think the hype has finally hit me this week for both because I got the
Mhm.
tickets for both this week.
You do.
So yeah.
How you want to explain how you're gonna watch them?
Okay. So I am going to see Barbie first.
Okay.
I'm going with two separate groups of people, which is why.
Mhm.
So I'm going on Thursday night with my lady to go see Barbie, which I'm very excited for. I can't wait. Which I hear the movie is not what people are expecting it to be, which makes me even
Mhm.
more excited. I love that Noah Baumbach wrote it. Anyway,
Yep.
and then on Saturday, I am going, or I'm sorry, on Sunday, because one of my homies I was going to go with is working on that Saturday. So on Sunday, I'll be a little late, a couple days late,
Mhm.
maybe to you or to some others.
Still
But
valid.
Sunday afternoon, going to the IMAX for Oppenheimer.
Awesome. I'm gonna try to watch them on the same day, on
Hell yeah.
Thursday, because tickets you can't buy it. You can for the premiere, but not on Thursday.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm gonna try. But you figured out a great one. Barbie with the lady, Oppenheimer with the
With the
boys.
boys. That's the only
Hell yeah.
way.
Hell
Well,
yeah.
I'm very excited for next week. I think it might be our magnum opus as a
Mhm.
podcast so far.
Yep.
But super excited to talk about it. And yeah, guys, go get your tickets for Barbie and Oppenheimer so you can listen in live. And thanks to everyone who's listening and checking it out. And go right to Criterion or to the president and tell them that we need the Heartbreak Kid um, released on like
Yep.
4K or something.
We need it. We need
All
that.
right, buddy. Well, I'll talk to you next week. Another good app.
Bye bye. Until next week.
See ya.